All right. Well, welcome to the political perspective. It's me, Reggie, aka Speed and Bullet, B exclamation point, and a special guest, Haas Grimes the Pen. Thanks for joining us on the political perspective. I feel like I got to get a pair of glasses so I can
You know what I
look as
mean?
studious
So
as
you
you
can be
two
like us
gentlemen.
right now. B
But
B push your Jones up, B.
I
Push your
push
Jones.
it. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
but I wanna start with the Trump administration has revoked six visas over Charlie Kirk comments.
Hmm.
And what's interesting is, you know, in this country we kind of hold our amendments in the Constitution just so like close and dear to the heart. First Amendment, freedom of speech. You gotta have our two A folks, ability to carry firearms and things of that nature. But the freedom of speech one is one that I think is a very interesting one because it's the very amendment that the government has never really made an attempt to like outwardly control your speech. And when people think of freedom of speech, what they think of is I can say whatever I want, and there are no consequences. But what the amendment to the Constitution, what it really refers to is the government being able to silence you. So it's not a person silencing you or you being shadow banned from a social media. It is the government coming in and silencing you. And the reason that is the very first amendment is because the easiest way for a government to get rid of any opposition is to limit your speech and the speech that opposes what you're doing. So Trump administration has been tinkering with just taking uh, different parts of the Constitution and different parts of speech and making attempts that the government has never really made to be able to shut some speech down. So um, they revoked some visas, and they've been doing this pretty much in the beginning of the administration was towards people who maybe protested, last year during, some of the college campus protests. So they revoked a lot of people, a lot of foreigners, a lot of students. They revoked a lot of their visas. Uh, made it so they couldn't, come back to the United States if they left the United States and things of that nature. But this is the first time that they've actually revoked people's visas just based on speech um, towards just a private public figure. And the reason why they were able to actually do this was they didn't use anything that had to do with the First Amendment. It is the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1966, which says that if a person poses a risk to U.S. foreign policy, um, the government can revoke their visa. So they use that kind of obscure kind of language. But when you think about it, can any one individual person like threaten the foreign policy of the greatest kind of biggest, most powerful country in the world? One person can't really, threaten the foreign policy of the country. But it just kind of just tells you that it's not really about things making sense. It's about kind of using the most kind of like minute, small details of the law to be able to get kind of the effects that this administration wants. And one of those effects is just kind of to limit people's speech. So I think it's something that is very interesting, and we should kind of um, just monitor because it's not just immigrations. I think it's also anyone that's a naturalized citizen. So even someone that has went through the process of becoming a citizen, um, they're subject to this type of removal also, which may affect people in our community. But the effect really is that now people just do not speak out. So that's just something that we need to kind of just pay attention to. Just pay attention to. Next thing I want to talk about is the Trump administration's CIA operations in Venezuela,
Mm.
which is something that the administration, well, Trump has admitted that he's authorized the CIA to have some covert activities in a foreign nation. And if we've been following the news this week, two more boats were shot out of the ocean by the U.S. military. boats
Yes.
that boats that they are claiming had drugs on these boats. And a total of 29 people have been killed with these strikes on these boats. And it just kind of gives you just a window of just how ridiculous it is to be like in the United States. Like we can just blow stuff out the ocean, and unfortunately, there's nothing that Venezuela can do but just kind of take it. Like unfortunately, there's nothing that they can do. There's no due process. Um, and what's interesting is the last boat that was struck, two people survived, and they were detained by the U.S. military and was given back to Venezuela. So it's not even making any sense. Like if you would kill someone and they're such a dangerous, terrorist drug dealer, why would you hand them over, back to their country?
Right.
It's just kind of like ridiculous. But um, we the United States has had a large history of CIA activity in foreign countries where we've attempted to topple governments, regime change, and just have caused just havoc, in other countries, and that is pretty much what the CIA does. They operate outside of the confines of the United States. It's not really a lot of laws that govern what they can do, and they meddle in other countries' business. And I think continues to kind of give us as the United States a bad reputation throughout the world, of us just bullying other countries. So um, I don't see any change in sight. It looks like they're gonna just continue to blow up boats in Venezuela. Um, I think there was reports that they are targeting now Colombia. Any boats that are coming out of Colombia that they deem maybe a drug smuggling boat, that they're gonna shoot these boats down. I think it's just interesting that someone like El Chapo, one of the most notorious drug dealers in the history of the world, was brought to the United States unharmed to be able to stand trial for his crimes.
Right.
We look at some of the masterminds of the 9/11, the 9/11 terrorists, playing fine into buildings. I mean, they were given due process. But when you blow a boat up in the middle of the ocean, that's not even the death penalty is not a realistic like charge for somebody that's selling drugs. Like even like I think Chapo hasn't gotten a death penalty, and he's the most notorious. So I think it's more about making a point. But I think it's interesting that it has not got the people aren't outraged like that. Folks would just be shot out of the ocean. It seems pretty ridiculous. Um, the next one I think is even kind of more ridiculous, but Donald Trump has commuted the sentence of a politician called George Santos. So George
Yes.
Santos, um, he was convicted. He actually pleaded guilty to two charges of wire fraud and identity theft. And he was a former congressman who, he was pretty much the biggest fraud that you could ever even imagine. Stealing people's identity,
Yeah.
different names, different countries. Like he just all over the place. And he was able to even trick himself into being elected into office. But reporters kind of uncovered some of his just some of his behavior, and he was arrested. He was tried and he was convicted, and he was sentenced to 7 years for these offenses, and he was set to go to prison. I think the day before his sentence was commuted, he was on his way to prison, and he tweeted something to the effect of he ain't going nowhere, and that's his sentence was commuted. Um, and Donald Trump actually gave the reason of why his sentence was commuted. He said because he's a Republican and supports my agenda.
That's
Um,
insane. That's insane.
it's absolutely insane, especially when a lot of Republican, especially talking heads and politicians, what they say is that the Democratic Party, which I'm not a fan of, but the Democratic Party, one of their policies is to be soft on crime. And Donald Trump has proven just in the last 9, 10 months that, if you have a relationship with him and you support him, he will let you out of prison, even for crimes that you have admitted to committing. So I mean, it's just another kind of black eye in what we see as our government. But to actually even piggyback to people being let out of jail, uh, a person that was convicted of the he was a convicted rioter in the January 6th riot. He was convicted, and Trump released all of those riots. I think it was over 1,300 that he released, and didn't do any type of like research on people and like their history of crimes or anything. Like anybody that had anything to do with the January 6th riots, he released all of these folks in January on his first day in office. Now, fast forward to a couple of days ago, one of the rioters has been arrested for threatening to kill the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. So he made some statements to someone that he was friends with, that Hakeem Jeffries was going to be making an appearance at some place that was close to his residence, and that he was gonna kill the person. He's gonna kill Hakeem Jeffries. This person contacted the FBI, but the FBI was contacted through the police, and this person was arrested. But this is the person that was already let out of jail for political violence, and now 9, 10 months later, he's already making an attempt to commit even more political violence. And there has been countless people who were released as January 6th rioters who have already committed
Hmm.
crimes and have been locked up. Some very kind of heinous crimes, crimes against children and things of that nature. It's been, a lot of those folks have been rearrested and have repeated some of the actions that have gotten them in prison after they were let out of prison by Trump.
That's absolutely
The
wild.
last thing I want to bring up is, and I'm sure you guys have heard some of this Republican group chat,
Oh my
Republican
God.
chat.
Yes. Yes.
So the
Very much.
latest, there was a person named Paul Ingrazia who was um, who was set to have his confirmation hearing from the Senate, but it was pulled out because he once again was in the middle of bunch of racist, just crazy texts that he had sent within his group, within his group text. And before I get into the details of this, one of the things I wanted to ask you guys is, do you think that the group chat is sacred and shouldn't be scrutinized the way it has the last couple of weeks?
If you are a
I think you
person
muted.
with oh, me, you can't hear me.
I can't hear you, babe.
Go ahead, Haas. Go ahead, Haas.
Can you hear me?
Let's go if you got something to say.
No, you go. You go ahead. Go ahead. We hear you now.
I can't
All
hear
right.
none of you guys. I
You
can't hear
can't.
you either, Haas.
You can't hear me either. Oh wow. Did James mute it?
Now, Reggie?
I can hear y'all now.
Can you hear me now, Reggie?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. I think if you are someone who has political power and influence, yeah, your group chat need to be um scrutinized, especially if you're saying the things that he was saying in that group chat. He was saying some wild, sick shit in that group chat. What you think, Haas?
Very much so. Very much so. But it should definitely be kept amongst the whoever's involved, the parties involved, because it can get if some of the stuff that's leaked out that people say in group chats, like we know, like we might have group chats with each other. Just imagine if somebody leaked it out, type of thing. So I definitely think it should be kept private, and not shared, because man, that was some crazy stuff.
So I tend to agree just a little bit with B. Just as a public figure
Hmm.
and someone who is going to be a decision maker in our government. And someone mentioned this last week. Like if you say it in private, you think it in public.
That's
Right.
fact.
And if we have to believe that that type of attitude has to um, drive some of your decisions that you made. So if you have a certain type of attitude, I need to know that because I know that you're not going to represent our government fairly to everyone. I think that there are group chats that could be embarrassing, right? And I think that's what kind of Haas is kind of leaning towards. Like, there's some group chats that would be embarrassing, right? That if they would leak, but the group chats that really kind of speak to a fundamental kind of like racist problem that we have in the country is a little different than maybe I said something a little off color or maybe I made a comment
Hmm.
about it's more embarrassing, but it's not like character it's not like it exposes a certain part of your character,
Right.
so I think that there's kind of levels of what could and should be leaked. But when someone says something to the effect of like the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday should be tossed in the seventh circle of hell, and that this person says I have a Nazi streak in me, um, and when you say things like you're comparing like the Martin Luther King assassination to George Floyd being killed, and comparing Martin Luther King to George Floyd in that manner. I mean, I think those things are just a little different than just some embarrassing thing that we all say on a group chat. But I
Right.
think what's even more kind of alarming is there wasn't a lot of pushback from those statements. A lot of
Right.
people just ignored them. But there wasn't a lot of pushback. And the question that I always ask is, in these group chats, are there any black people in these group
Right. That's
chats?
the
And
question.
if there are black people, they're either not responding
Right.
or they're just kind of accepting this type of behavior, which is even more terrible. So either the Republican Party and the Republican, group chat, and maybe they don't let the black people in the group chat, right?
Say
Right.
nothing. Right. Right. Right.
Either it ain't no black people or they identify the black people and like we can't add him to the group chat because we
Right.
can't,
That's they
make
got the
make
group
make
chat
certain.
and then the side group chat
And then the
without the
side group chat.
without
Right.
the niggas.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
No doubt, no doubt. So,
One
I
is
mean,
us and one is them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, um, the last thing I want to talk about is just some federal funding freezes. As a result of the government being shut down, Trump is using the shutdown as an opportunity to freeze funding all over the place. But
Okay.
something that Trump is doing that's very kind of interesting is Trump is freezing funding in Democratic cities and funneling that funding to red states and red cities, which is totally against the law. But we know that
Yeah.
the law doesn't really matter to this administration. But
At all.
Trump has this attitude that if a state or city did not support him, that he's going to do whatever he can to either bankrupt that state or not send federal funds to that state, which is kind of ridiculous because building a bridge in Massachusetts has nothing to do with blue or red or
At
or
all.
woke or black people or whatever, but it just
Hmm.
has to do with just Trump just being an ass and Trump just being upset. But
Right.
even Trump is kind of stupid in his assessment because even if you look at a city like Philadelphia went Democrat probably 70%. But what about the 30% that did vote for Trump? They just gonna be collateral damage, and I
Right.
think that's the part that a lot of Trump voters don't even really realize is that a lot of y'all are going to be collateral damage of his
Mhm.
of his of his bad attitude towards people that didn't support him. Y'all are
Yep.
going to get caught up in that also,
That's
and because you can't really differentiate. You
Yeah.
know, so I can say, all right, well, I'm going to harm this city because it's 60% Democrat. I mean, but you're harming your 40% people that voted for you. So it's a ridiculously kind of like stupid philosophy, but it's something that his voters have to kind of deal with. And you see a lot of complaints and tears of Republicans that have lost their jobs. And it's like, I don't give a fuck about y'all. Long as if he'll harm 10 Democrats and but 5 Republicans end up getting some too, he doesn't really care.
Trump is so ridiculous. He might actually unite the country like 9/11 did for 2 weeks.
Right. Right.
Like I don't see much. Again, my algorithm. I don't see a lot of support for him. I do see support for him still, but I don't see a lot. And we just had the No Kings in America um protests this past weekend. Um it's just, it's only been 10 months and we got some time to go. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, um buckle up, strap in. One thing you didn't mention in the cuts is the SNAP benefits being cut effective November 1st. And
Right.
we'll get to see how that is going to affect the country. I think it's number 42 million people are at risk of losing benefits in SNAP. And that's not good for anybody, especially, it's not good, period, but it's especially not good with Thanksgiving coming around, the
Yeah,
holidays
that
coming
part, the
around.
holidays.
It's just all bad. So I also saw a stat that said the deficit went from 36 trillion when he was in office now, well, when he got inaugurated, to now it's 38 trillion. And what happened to Doge? Because he's cutting a lot of programs, but where's the money going?
Hmm.
Those are questions that I have. And we spent a good chunk of time on the political perspective. I don't want to run too long on that. I know we got to get to the top five. Reggie, you can close us out. Thank you so much for the political perspective. Well needed information for everybody who listens.
All right.
Absolutely.
And lastly, if you're not political, you do not have a perspective.